In March 2020, everything changed quickly once lockdown was announced. Family Violence Law Center staff immediately jumped into action, finding practical ways to keep serving our community. FVLC's crisis intervention staff developed a system for answering the crisis line daily, ensuring that calls were routed and referred quickly. Our attorneys found the online tools they needed to support survivors remotely, including interviewing, obtaining signatures, and getting legal paperwork to them. Staff continued to meet survivors once a week every Friday in the parking lot of the FVLC office building to distribute gift cards for food and other essentials. For the survivors we serve, everything changed also. Our efforts and systems changed because, as with everyone else, the lives of our survivors changed drastically and without warning.
For Sally, a monolingual Spanish-speaking survivor of domestic violence with 3 children, the lockdown meant losing her job and the possibility of being unhoused. When the lockdown began, Sally lost her job and did not have money to rent another apartment. She found roommates to share the rent, but her landlord still pushed her and her children to move out. An FVLC attorney negotiated extensively with Sally's landlord, reminding him of her right to sublet the unit within reason under the Oakland Just Cause Ordinance, and of her right to stay in the unit under the City of Oakland's eviction moratorium. Ultimately, the landlord agreed to let Sally and her children stay in their home. An FVLC case manager supported Sally's employment search, eventually leading her to find a job and rent a new apartment.
Without Family Violence Law Center's resources and services, Sally would have been alone in this fight, unaware of her rights and vulnerable to her landlord's predatory tactics. She may have prematurely vacated her unit per the landlord's request, leaving her homeless with her 3 children, making her one of the thousands of displaced Oaklanders who become unsheltered. FVLC advised Sally of her rights to stay in her home under the local eviction moratorium, and she did. Because of the services of FVLC, Sally felt confident exercising her rights, and she and her children remained safely housed.
The level of violence survivors suffered during the pandemic increased exponentially. FVLC client Andrea was referred to us after her ex-boyfriend kidnapped her at gunpoint as she was entering her job. Andrea's ex threatened to kill her, stalked her at her home, slashed her car tires, and impersonated her on social media. Andrea and her ex have 2 children together who witnessed their father's abusive behavior. The FVLC team assessed Andrea's case as urgent after her abuser fled the area with a warrant out for his arrest. Our team worked with Andrea, safety planning, and securing her a space in a confidential domestic violence shelter.
An FVLC staff attorney helped Andrea prepare and file her request for a temporary restraining order. The restraining order was granted, protecting both Andrea and her boys from their abuser prior to the court date. At the hearing, Andrea was represented by an FVLC attorney. She was granted a 4-year restraining order and granted sole custody, further protecting her and her children from being victims at the hands of their abuser. Because of FVLC's staff, Andrea was able to effectively, efficiently, and meaningfully access the justice system and obtain the protection she needed to keep herself and her children safe.